are going to start the afternoon with Michael from Progress, taking us through the evolution of search and an introduction to Progress Agentic RAG. Looking forward to it, Michael.
Sounds good. Who's ready to speak about AI? More AI? Yeah! All right. First off, I want to apologize. I'm from the U.S. That's not what I'm apologizing for. Specifically Boston, and I'm a lifelong Bruins fan, so I apologize. But it's always fun coming up to Toronto as a Bruins fan. No, but yeah. So I'm from Progress. I joined Progress a little bit under a year ago. Progress is a company that I've been in data and analytics for a while. Didn't know about Progress, but there's a lot of different products we offer. We offer one Agentic RAG, which we'll talk about, but we also offer a number of different AI tools. We offer database technologies. We offer Sitefinity as our CMS platform, et cetera. And we've been in business for a really long time. As a tech company, we've been in business for about 40 years, which is wild for a tech company. Most tech companies I've worked for have only been in existence for about 10 years. So the primary concern that we have as a company is trust. We have a lot of different companies across a lot of different industries that are our client base, and putting that trust factor into every piece of technology that we create is something that we specifically focus on. But first off, generative AI has changed everything. How many people are using ChatGPT and Claude? Raise your hands. Let's raise some more hands. Everybody's raising their hands. Cool. Generative AI has reset search expectations quite a bit. So formerly, when people were searching for things, as you all know in this room, it was a keyword search. You type in a keyword, you get back a list of links. These links you'd have to search through. So if you're looking to find something, you might click on the first link, you might click on the second link, and in your head, you're synthesizing the information that you're just coming back and trying to figure out, is this the right answer? Is this the wrong answer? Generative AI has changed that. And so we've seen ChatGPT, for example. These numbers are crazy. These are weekly numbers of active users on ChatGPT. 900 million people use ChatGPT every week. That's crazy. Insane adoption. And so we've seen a fast adoption from ChatGPT. We've seen this from Claude. We've seen people switch from ChatGPT to Gemini to Claude, a number of different consumer-facing experiences. The problem with these is there's not a ton of governance around them. And it also doesn't understand what your business context is. And so we've seen this shift in terms of the search experience from keywords to intent. So what does that mean? When people are going to ChatGPT, Claude, et cetera, they are asking full questions now. It's not something where somebody is going, hey, I'm looking to find Agentic RAG, so I type in Agentic RAG. People are asking, what is the best tool to solve this particular problem? So we're moving from keywords to intent. We're also moving from pages to conversations. And so we've talked a little bit in some of these sessions about zero-click experiences and having conversations with your data. And so we've seen on Progress, for example, on progress.com, you can see people asking questions and then asking another follow-up question. Understanding what they're looking for is very important now. We've also seen this rise from segments to individuals. Personalization on an individual level is becoming extremely important. And so when people are using these generative AI experiences, they're asking full questions, and they're expecting full detailed answers that fit their individual context. So it's not just about saying, what's the pricing for X, Y, and Z over ABC? It's more of I'm trying to understand for my specific company how this is going to solve my problems. And so we see these new search behaviors. We see conversational, multimodal, zero-click, cross-platform, and trust-driven type search behaviors. Conversational, multi-turn, asking a specific question, then following up in more depth. Multimodal, people are starting to use images and saying, hey, I'm looking for this specific product, and this specific product, I have an image of it, and I want to find something that's comparable. This is something we've seen. 0 click, so going into a website, searching on a website, and not going to any pages, just getting an answer. Cross-platform. People are now connecting not just to their website, but also to their CRM, to their analytics tools, and they want one specific search experience across all of those. And then trust-driven. So we've talked about it a lot. Hallucinations. They're a factor in all of these generative AI experiences. And having this trust-driven, having the trust layer that you can access so that you can understand where that information came from in a generative AI answer is extremely important. Does anybody know who Grace Hopper is? All right. Grace Hopper is one of the first people to develop a programming language. So she was somebody in the 40s and the 50s who led a team that developed one of the first English language programming languages. So she has this phrase here. The most dangerous phrase in language is, "We've always done it this way." So if you're missing out on generative AI, you're going to miss the boat. It's something where we all have to dive in. And believe me, I understand that companies have been positioning AI as a tool to solve everything. It's not. It's made for specific use cases, and those specific use cases add a ton of value. But it's really identifying what those use cases are and trying to flesh out that value as soon as possible. But I will say, you look at these companies like Claude, Anthropic, and ChatGPT, and they are pushing AI for everything. It's kind of ruining AI for a lot of different people out there. It's alienating a lot of the audience. And so this is it's tough because you want to lean in. It's a very valuable technology, but then at the same time you have these companies with this positioning where it's for everything, and unfortunately it's not. But we'll talk about that. And so the relationship to data has changed. We've moved from having everything on our website that you can access and you can search with. Now you can search through a lot more. The LLMs open up the capabilities in terms of what you can search through. It's not just your website. It's also PDFs. It's also video. It's also images. It's product documentation. And the ability to reason through this is really what's changing the marketplace. And so with LLMs and with this technology, you can ask, and then you could have a layer on top of that where you can retrieve the information, and then it will reason over it, synthesize that information, and provide you with an answer. And so we've created Progress Agentic RAG. It's a tool where you can find an authenticated search experience, so the users will only see what they're supposed to see. So depending upon your audience, you can segment your data in various different ways. It also provides personalized results. So same question, different user, different answer. We can personalize that for you based upon what they're asking and what their intent is. And then it's multilingual. So the cool thing about LLMs, they're really good about translation. So if you want to, for example, ask a question in French of English language text, it will give you back a result in French. It's really powerful. And we actually work with a number of different companies in Asia where it's really difficult to do that translation work manually, but we can do it just with LLMs. And then we unlock the unstructured data. So any format, it can be PDF, again, audio, video, images, documents, etc. You can search against it. Video in particular, it's very cool. If you run a search, you get back information right down to the frame. So if you ask for where does mountains exist in this video, it will tell you exactly where it comes from. And I'll show it to you. On our website, we have, yeah. So we've implemented this on our website. And so this is progress.com. This is one way in which you can use our service. And essentially, we have indexed our sitemap here to get to these answers. And so that includes stuff like documentation, includes marketing assets, it includes a whole bunch of stuff that we've put into our database behind the scenes, Progress Agentic RAG. It was a challenge to get this up and running. I'm not going to say that it was sugarcoat it and say it was easy, but there were things that we learned that we could help with other companies. So with this, for example, Progress, as I mentioned, we have 20 different products. And they all have documentation. And some of them are perpetual licenses. And so there are people on old versions of the software that need answers. And so when they type in something, they need to go to their exact version of they're going to. We had to solve for that, and so we did. But it was a experience where we had to iterate on it a lot. And so just for example, putting guardrails in place on this, there was a time where people would ask questions in order to see if they could trick it. And so we did a lot of testing in that regard. One of the problems that we came back with was the tomato soup recipe problem. And so if somebody typed in, I want a recipe for tomato soup, it would give you a recipe when we first implemented it. And so we had to put guardrails in place. And then we had hallucinations, and they were a factor. And so we had to iterate on the type of data that we put into the service. You couldn't just put in everything, which we tried to do at first, which didn't work. So we had to segment it. We had to be really smart with it and figure out ways in which we could deliver the exact answers that people wanted for their specific questions. And so let me just real quick type in something here. We'll say, what is Progress Agentic RAG? And we come back with an answer which is fully generated by an LLM. And this is based upon our own data. So it's based upon our different websites, our different web pages, but also any marketing material that we have. So PDFs, videos, images are included as well. And what it does, it provides you with a pretty comprehensive answer. It also provides you with citations back to the source of how it generated that answer. So if you look, for example, up here, it says, grounded in real trusted content, 1 and 2, and you can see it's introducing progressagenticrag.net SDK is where it's pulling that information from. So you know exactly where the information came from, and you can go back to the source of those information. But this isn't just one experience. This is very customizable to exactly what you would need. It can look very different depending upon the use case. And so we have customers, for example, in the education space that have course recommendation finders. There are people in the manufacturing space that have onboarding tools. It's all very tailorable to the situation. And it doesn't have to look like this. It can look completely different. So you see this bar up top here. This is another one that we've created internally at Progress. This is a search tool for the UI for Blazor, which is another one of our many, many different products that we have. But here, if I search, what is the Telerik UI for Blazor? I get a different type of result here. And see, here it's giving me an answer based upon this particular knowledge base, and it's giving it in a different format. So you can see some sources, but you can see it's a much shorter answer. And you can also have follow-up questions. If I want to ask a follow-up question, I can do that there. But the cool thing about this is, again, it's super customizable. You can fit it into your particular brand, your particular look and feel. But you can also do things like this section right here is from one particular LLM. And that's because we want to have a really detailed answer here based upon the documentation. So we have a stronger LLM here. down below we have a list of links. These links are generated by an LLM as well. And this description is generated by an LLM. But this LLM is less cost. And so you can use 2 different LLMs, 3 different LLMs in your implementation if you want, and that helps you save on cost. If people don't know, LLMs today, the range in costs can be 26x, a lower one. But finding the right one that you need for your specific use case is really up to you, and it's up to testing. And you can do that as well with Progress Agentic RAG. In the platform, yes, question. I love interactivity. Yep. No, so these are specifically designed for our audience and our personas that we market to. So yes, our end customers. And so we have this on progress.com. We have it on, I've been at a lot of different companies, and Progress has done a really good job of dog fooding these things. There's a ton of different AI experiences we've created internally with this. It's not a one-to-one thing. So you stand up a knowledge base of all of your information. So it could be SharePoint, it can be in Google Drive and S3, wherever you keep your knowledge. You can upload it manually if you want. You can automatically ingest in a sitemap, so you can get your entire website into the platform. But then you can stand up as many AI experiences as you want on top of it. And you can customize those for the particular audience. And so we have progress.com. We have this Telerik documentation site. Agentic RAG also has in their documentation a search box and a search field. And essentially this allows you to provide answers on any data, which is internally too. And so for my sales team, Paul sitting in the front row here, we've provided a sales enablement portal. The sales enablement portal allows them to go in and ask questions if they need resources. So I have uploaded every single Progress Agentic RAG marketing resource and the entire website documentation into a knowledge base. They can ask questions of it and on the fly get back answers. So if they're on a sales call, they can quickly and easily pop in a question and get back an answer they can give to their customer. This is what it looks like. This is what the product actually looks like. This is the back end behind every AI experience. Real simply, oops. You can upload your data by just clicking on a file. If you wanted to upload an individual file, a folder. You can also, if you would like to synchronize, you can sync live SharePoint, Google Drive, your site, and you have it continuously updated. So a problem with AI in general is that missing context piece. And we've talked about context a lot. This is providing you a tool to keep your context up to date and refreshed. And so every answer that you're getting back from an LLM is grounded in your enterprise data. So you can sync it, you can upload individual files, but we also can do some cool things here. So for example, I mentioned that this was hooked up to our sales enablement platform. And so we can look up and see what people are asking of individual questions on the platform. And I did look at this earlier. So there was nothing gratuitous, if you will. But you can see the individual questions. So this person was asking, focus on automating bank statement retrieval, mapping customer requests to the right data. You can see the individual answer. And you can also see a score for individual answers as well. And so we have something in our platform called RAG evaluation metrics, which enables you to see exactly how well the answer did, if the answer was grounded in the right information, and how long it took to generate that answer. And then you can also see the cost behind every answer that you have. Tokens are something that no one wants to talk about here because they cost a lot of money. But this platform gives you tools in which you can understand your token spend, and tailor your retrieval such that you can get higher quality of answers, better performance, and better groundedness to the information. It's continuously scoring every question that you put into this and the answers that are generated. And then you can improve that. You can have a continuous cycle. So if there's missing data, it will flesh out that data. So you raise your hand. Yeah, so good question. So there are 3 metrics we score them on. Answer relevance, if it's relevant based upon the information that it's accessed. How grounded it is in the information that is in the system. So is that answer being generated based upon information that's already in the platform? And then the other one is context relevance. Context relevance. So understanding if the question meets that delta between the information provided and the response. Does that answer your question? But these are things that we're all going to have to grapple with in the next couple. It's important. Yeah. So it's important to understand what resources are in the system, and if the information it's pulling from is your enterprise context. And that is important because if it doesn't pull from your enterprise context, it's pulling from the general training that the LLM was focused on. So without RAG, you're going to get answers that are based upon the general training data of the LLM. With RAG, you're grounding that in your enterprise knowledge. And if the score isn't high enough, then that means that you're providing information that's just from the general purpose model and not from your enterprise data.
Go ahead.
So you are ingesting company information here with your RAG. And so how are you protecting that information from the LLMs? Can you take us through that?
Sure. So RAG is retrieval augmented generation. That's what it stands for. And essentially what you're doing is you're passing along a segment of your data every time you answer a question. So you're not sending over a whole document. But whenever it finds the specific paragraph that answers that question, it's passing that paragraph to the LLM. So it still passes some information because it needs to in order to answer the question, but it's actually limiting the amount of information it provides. Does that answer your question?
And you're also protected by the terms of use of the LLM that you're connected to. So you're not just throwing it at ChatGPT. You actually have a ChatGPT account that's connected to this, and the terms of that engagement make sure that it's not added into the training data.
Yeah, and I would say also too, within the platform, we actually have notes for each LLM, and the LLM will be denoted as enterprise ready, and that means that the data won't be provided to the LLM for training. So you can make that, within the platform, you can pick which LLM you want based upon what their agreements are.
But with the data sovereignty laws or issues that Canada is now seeing with the US, aren't there issues with our data?
Absolutely.
Being stored?
We also are EU AI Act compliant, which is very similar. And so we have, with data residency requirements, depending upon where those are, we generally will host the data in that sovereign country.
Just grab the microphone.
However, my understanding is if the company is owned in the United States, regardless of whether or not you have satellite offices, that the United States government can still summon that data.
So I'm going to take that one, Mike. They can domicile the data in Canada have you got that on
Yes.
par yet? Okay. So you can, if you get the platform, you can choose to have it domiciled on Canadian soil. Yeah. Right, so this is your system. No.
Yeah, but it would be domiciled in Canada.
Yeah,
It depends on who you want to use. So if it's
It's whoever you connect it to.
Yeah, so
So you decide and you create the account with the LLM.
Yeah, and then with the on the data storage end, it's also, are you an AWS
So
shop? Are you
think
an
of this
Azure shop?
platform more as the orchestrator and the facilitator of the solution. Where the data is stored is not part of the platform. Okay.
Cool. Good questions. Good questions. We've seen, in terms of design, ways in which people have used this for AI experiences, we've seen everything from a course room catalog, a mortgage comparison guide, where people are using it. People are using it for things like onboarding. I've seen, and the path to this, to AI and AI in general, is not, doesn't have to be on your website. It doesn't have to be first thing you need to put it on your website. I would suggest for people to do a lot of testing and experimenting, and I think a lot of people are currently, as we've learned earlier today. But doing something internally is also extremely valuable. So we've had customers who've started with an onboarding tool. They've expanded to an HR policy tool. Then they've added in a AI search on their website. And then they have a sales intelligence tool as well. And so once you stand up a knowledge base of information and populate it with the right information, you can start standing up customized AI experiences on top of your data in a number of different places.
Back to the sort of data sovereignty question, you have to also remember that this is, it depends on how you want to use it, but if you're using this to provide an AI chat assistant to your website, that is data that is already globally available, regardless of where it's domiciled. If you're deciding to put in an internal resource, if you want it to be able to access your HR data, then the same question remains. Where are you storing that data right now? Is it inside SharePoint? Is it on a cloud server? Where's that domiciled? What are the access policies to get at that information? So when we're thinking about these are all very good risk-based questions, but the AI doesn't necessarily add any exposure. I'm not going to be your risk counsel here, but just make sure that the scenario that you're thinking of doesn't take the situation a little bit too far.
And what we're trying to do here is, you see the various different point solutions out there. I'm sure you've had conversations with them. There's AI assistant platforms. There are search experience platforms. What this is trying to do with Agentic RAG is provide governance and a layer with which you can modularly change different things to tailor it to your expectations for cost, performance, and quality. And so you can change search settings. So if you don't want 3 pages long of text that's generated and it's going to cost you $3 per query, you can make it just a paragraph. If you're on the legal side, and we've seen legal teams do this, they need to have the title of documents included in every answer. You can do that if you want to have the titles of documents included in every answer. Every answer generated also comes with detailed citations. And those citations don't go to a document. They go to the paragraph within the document that it pulled from. And in addition to that, as I mentioned with video and audio files, if you're searching for when somebody said something at a particular conference, like me now, you can do that with words now. And it will take you to the exact timestamp. And that's something that's very valuable, especially with conference organizations and people that generate a ton of video content. If you're looking for the moment when somebody said something specific, imagine scrubbing through that and how long that takes. This is now you can just go to right where it exists. On image search side, it's very valuable for manufacturing companies, we found in particular, because they have these big, long instruction manuals and standard operating procedures. Those manuals also have images. Those images have parts in them. And if you describe what the part is, it will find it in that particular instruction manual. This is the power of LLMs, and it's kind of like magic, but these are things that we're going to be grappling with over the course of the next couple of years. A lot of talk about people replacing people, but this is actually making people more valuable because they're finding information quicker, they're making them more productive, and we're completing tasks in a quicker manner. But in terms of how we have approached this, AI search could be an entry point. As I mentioned, You have HR, you have legal teams. If they need to do search, something internal to test it, that can be an entry point. Then moving over to a conversational assistant, something on your website where you can have conversations with your data, point them in the right direction in terms of the highly personalized types of assets that they need. And then there's further than that, there's dynamic and adaptive pages, and there's hyper-personalized journeys. And so with Progress Sitefinity, we have the ability now, or we will very soon, where you can have dynamic web pages. And so as users come to your web page and ask questions, the web page will be different depending upon their experience. And so on the left here, we have an example of what the way it currently is, but on the right, we have more of a dynamic generated experience. And essentially here, we have on the left, somebody came to this website looking for a mortgage. And they're presented with these options, which are dynamic and static. On the right, because they were looking for a mortgage, we understood that, and we can provide them with more customized experience for their website. And yes, this is the power of Progress Agentic RAG and Progress Sitefinity, our CMS. Does anybody have any questions? Any further questions?
Right behind you, Andrea.
So knowing that different LLMs have different strengths,
Yep.
if your organization had agreements with different LLMs, could you put them all together and then also tailor which one would answer certain questions?
So not currently. So right now, the way it's set up is that you pick an AI experience, and you create the AI experience, you pick the LLM under the hood yourself. In the future, there might come a time when we can dynamically select the LLM for you, but that's not today.
But I don't think that's the question. You want to be able to have different, a different kind of search use one LLM, and then somewhere else for a different use case, the search uses a different LLM.
Well, we can do that.
And that's absolutely possible.
Well, yeah, what we're thinking about right now is, and maybe I'm just thinking a little bit in the future, but one search box, and when you ask a question, it routing to the appropriate LLM. And that's something that's coming in the future, but that's not something today. Today, we have 40 different LLMs on the platform. There are, Anthropic, OpenAI. We have a ton more. Mistral, you can get open source LLMs. And depending upon the specific use case, you might want a different LLM. And you can bring your own model as well. So if you have your own model that you've developed internally, you can do that as well.
A question at the back?
How's it going? I guess it's a two-pronged question. One, kind of to work off the question that just been asked, are you kind of seeing across organizations how people are using it, and if they're kind of just using one model for the LLMs? And then the second part of that is how do you measure that? Because I think you had already mentioned that you're able to see how well it answers a question. Can you also kind of measure that across an organization and then across an LLM?
Yeah, so you can do that currently on the platform. It provides you with metrics, again, on the groundedness, the context relevance, and the answer quality for all of the different AI tools that you use. You can segment it and search and sort by the different LLM available. We've seen, for example, on progress.com, we originally were using Gemini to generate answers. We changed it to Claude because we found the answers were better. We found that out by testing. And within Progress Agentic RAG, there's a feature called RAG and Prompt Lab. Within RAG and Prompt Lab, you can go in there and compare two answers side by side. And it will give you an understanding of what the answers look like, but also give you an understanding of how much it costs to generate those two answers.
I'll say that kind of analysis and understanding gets more important when you have a very large site and a lot of traffic. If you've got thousands of visitors an hour, you can see your token consumption going up very quickly. If you have a smaller site, does it really matter if one query cost 30 cents and the next one costs 32 cents? it's probably less of an issue. So there's sort of different priorities that you might place on that kind of analysis.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much some of the LLMs cost compared to other ones. So as I mentioned, I think the difference between the lowest cost model and the one that is the highest cost is something like 26x right now today on our platform.
26x?
Yes. So we have, as I mentioned, the Anthropic models, the OpenAI models, the most popular models, but then we've just recently added, for example, if you ever wanted to play around with some Chinese models, we have Chinese models on our website. So there's a ton of different LLMs for you to try on the website, and you can do it in an environment that's safe for your organization.
Yeah, and so in the platform, you have a sandbox. You can play around with the way that it's behaving before you deploy this on anything public. And so I would also suggest if this is something that you're curious about, you want to sink into, it's definitely worth taking a peek. We can set up a demo. We can guide you through it. We can help answer some of these questions in context of your individual situation. It's remarkably straightforward for us to set this up against a sample of your data or whatever's on your website at the moment. It's as Danielle was saying this morning, it is a low barrier to get this spun up and working and then implemented for you.
Yeah, and it's essentially, the way it plugs into websites is essentially an iframe. So it's very easy to plug it into a website, and it sits along your existing data. It's not something where you have to ingest all of your data at once. You can do this incrementally. And it sits alongside whatever you're doing. Very low effort experimentation.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.